longer till textbooks and a proper syllabus reach our children. The apex court verdict is awaited as the state calls it an injustice. A. Raja now says he didn't mean to implicate the Prime Minister in the 2G scam, but Dr. Manmohan Singh chose not to set up a group of ministers. Raja also says he showed the Attorney General the press note. Vahanvati hits back saying Raja's charges are rubbish. Vigilance officials search residences of senior police officers and bureaucrats in the city after complaints of land misuse. The RBI hikes rates once again, this time by 0.5%. Get ready to pay more for home and car loans. Tiny tot Arif is still missing. Last seen with a beggar in Oteri. The cops gather leads into the kidnap case. Police zero in on a suspect after a DMDK worker was hacked to death last afternoon in front of his son. Tamil Nadu's government exchange website needs a reboot as internet cafes charge higher rates for browsing. Veteran actor Ravi Chandran is no more and put to rest. The chief minister who once shared screen space with him pays her respects. And take a cue from this mama-to-be, snooker champ Vidya Pillai claims her 6th national title before she moves on to represent Karnataka next. Welcome to the late night news on NDTV Hindu with me, Evelyn Matthew. Let's also take you through the national and the world headlines. Still defiant and refusing to quit, Karnataka's chief minister says the Prime Minister should quit first as many in his cabinet are corrupt. The government allows Sister Jean to stay indefinitely after the nun working with leprosy patients was asked to leave after 30 years. And Pakistan's new Foreign Minister Hina Rabbani is in the capital ahead of the Foreign Ministers meeting. The Foreign Secretaries held discussions today. A day after naming him in court in connection with the 2G scam, the former telecom minister A. Raja today told the court that he didn't mean to implicate the Prime Minister and then Finance Minister P. Chidambaram. But he added that the Prime Minister chose not to set up a group of ministers to look into how the licenses were being granted. He said he was being accused of overriding the group of ministers, but while he was concerned about a conflict of interest in referring it to the group of ministers, the Prime Minister could have done so. But Raja said the Prime Minister did not. It was Dr. Singh's judgment and he could have formulated a group of ministers if he really wanted to. Now, A. Raja continued to whip up a storm today when he took over his own defense from his lawyer for some time, taking on the Attorney General Vahanvati. The accused minister attacked Vahanvati on the controversial press note on the first-come, first-served rule for spectrum allocation that was allegedly amended to include a cut-off date after the Solicitor General saw it. Raja said, "I amended it. DOT Secretary Siddharth Behura showed him my note." The Attorney General called Raja's allegations rubbish. He said the press note he saw was unamended and it was amended later by Raja himself. Now, the uniform syllabus still hangs in the balance as the Supreme Court verdict on the implementation is taking a much longer wait. The argument against the state government's decision has been in progress. The senior counsel for the government argued at the apex court challenging the implementation of a syllabus which did not follow the National Curriculum Framework of 2005. He also argued that the High Court did not consider the unanimous decision of the 9-member panel committee. As defense, the government had decided to postpone the implementation of syllabus indefinitely because the syllabus was substandard, else it would prove as injustice to the students. So as of now, a verdict is likely only in the next 2 to 3 days. Moving on, senior police officers and bureaucrats in Chennai were today raided by officials in charge of tackling corruption. Now, these raids were carried out in connection with sale and misappropriation of plots allotted under the government discretionary quota. The raids included the houses of Jafar Seth, who was the intelligence chief when the DMK was in power. Raids were also conducted at 8 other places, including Karunanidhi's former secretary's son's house. The following allegations that Seth had suppressed information to get the government housing board plot allotted for him, and that he defrauded the government by further developing property, entering into an agreement with a construction company for pecuniary gains. Jafar is currently serving as special officer of the Lankan refugee camp at Mandapam area. It's been a no-show for Kalanidhi Maran, who has been summoned by the city police today in connection to cases against the COO of Sun Pictures, Hansraj Saxena. In fact, the Sun Network chairman and the managing director has been set to appear before them for questioning on cheating cases filed by film distributors T.S. Selvaraj and Shanmugavel of Salem. Earlier, Kalanidhi Maran had missed a summons as he was out of the city, but top police sources have told us that a second summon will be issued to Mr. Maran if he had failed to turn up before the investigating officer. In fresh developments in the Koturpuram murder case that took place last afternoon, police say that they have identified the suspects. In fact, 5 special police teams have launched a manhunt to nab the accused persons. The 36-year-old DMDK party cadre was hacked to death by a gang in broad daylight in the area yesterday. He lived in the nearby slum clearance board housing complex and was returning home with his son from his school on his bike when a gang arrived in an auto rickshaw and bikes with some weapons and launched an attack. Police suspect previous enmity to be the cause of the crime. Our crime correspondent Salim gets you some more details.
Following the interrogations with the suspect, the police say that they have formed 5 special teams and that they have identified the accused persons as far as this case is concerned. The police say that they suspect previous enmity to be the cause of crime, and there is no political rivalry between the 2 persons as far as the police is concerned. They say that investigation is going on the right track and that they will be in a position to nab the accused persons very soon. They have sent their special teams to various districts of the state.
Moving on, there's no news of tiny tot missing Arif, whose weight has only made his parents all the more grave. To handle that, NDTV Hindu tracks that story. Not to be seen over the past 2 weeks, Arif's home in Jindatripet has only had praying and hoping for a miraculous rescue of their little baby boy, but in what could lead the police to some vital clues. A neighbor's son had spotted the boy on the shoulder of a beggar in Oteri, the area from which the child went missing from. Police are still investigating this case. Now get ready to pay more for a car or a house that you've planned to buy. The Reserve Bank of India today raised the repo rates, the short-term lending rates by 0.5% to around 8%. The hike in repo is more than the consensus expectations of a 0.25% hike. This is the 11th time since March 2010 that the RBI has raised interest rates, making it the longest rate hike cycle in nearly a decade. The RBI has been increasing interest rates in a bid to contain rising inflation, but welcoming the RBI's decision to hike the rates by a hefty 50 basis points, the Finance Minister, Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, said it will help bring down inflation to a comfortable level of 6 to 7% by the year end. But this means that lending rates of banks is set to increase and consumers will have higher loan rates, home loans and as well as EMIs, which will get pricier once the banks set their basis rate.
These are to maintain an interest rate environment that moderates inflation and anchors inflation expectations, to manage the risk of growth falling significantly below trend, and finally, to manage liquidity to ensure that monetary transmission remains effective without exerting undue stress on the financial system.
Now, we here at NDTV Hindu asked a panel of experts about whether the RBI rates and the hikes turned out to be a pain or a gain for the common man, and here's their take on today's development.
We expect the banks to again follow it up with a rate hike, which is going to be significantly more early in August. So it will be definitely affecting the common man. It will be affecting the new borrower as well as anybody who has already borrowed. So it will be affecting the both set of people, and they have to make their decisions. Their EMIs and everything is affected by this decision by RBI.
Obviously, the cash flow is what is important, and in India, the typical thing is that almost about 75 to 80% of the people buy the vehicle by financing. So obviously, any increase in 1%, 2%, and what we have seen in the last is 2.5 to 3 percentage point is obviously going to be a negative impact, and customer will hold back till I think the interest rates settle down to, let's say, below maybe I think 9% or below kind of 8 to 9%.
Banks will also have to increase their deposit rates. If they don't, again they may lose funds to rival banks. So they're going to face pressure on both sides. So definitely a difficult 1 year ahead for banks.
Up ahead on the late night news, Yedi may not be ready to go just yet, but the BJP, is it ready? With the party's image at stake, the heat is clearly on.